What is up, everybody? My name is SirEmCeeCoy, and welcome to our TCU Horned Frogs off-season. Last season, the off-season just, I don't know what happened to it. It kind of broke, the video files were corrupted, so I didn't get to put it up. This year's a little different. Now, I was considering streaming, but due to the smaller number of subscribers, I'm not going to be streaming this off-season, but hopefully, next off-season we can. So let's start with a recap. This season we finished 9-5 and we won the Cotton Bowl. Still not quite up to the 10 wins per year target expectation, but it's our first bowl win in 3 years. We're getting this organization headed in the right direction. Obviously, the goal is to win the Big 12. That's what we're going to be looking forward to in 2015. And now we're going to be looking at some all NCAA players. Matt Anderson for left end made it. Paul Dawson at middle linebacker. And Sam Carter at strong safety. So 3 first-team All-Americans. Now moving on to the second team, we have our full safety Chris Hackett. Not a bad addition. So far 3 All-Americans and now 4 actually. Moving on to the All-Big 12. BJ Catalan at halfback. That's not really surprising. I know him on the first team. Matt Anderson again. Devontae Fields. So both ends make it. Paul Dawson. Once again, no surprises there. Chris Hackett and Sam Carter both make first team. Now into the second team. Davion Pearson and Chucky Hunter, both defensive tackles, find their way into the second team. Kevin White for starting corner. And at kick return is Brandon Carter. So not a bad all-star year, and now we're just looking at some awards. The Bednarik goes to Sam Carter. The Bronk Nagurski goes to Matt Anderson, no surprise there with 14 sacks. Now we're just looking at some bowl games for people in our division. Kansas State loses in a close one. Baylor blows out Wisconsin in the Car Bowl. The Alamo, Texas gets destroyed by USC. That's something I like to see. BYU loses to Northwestern in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. Oklahoma blows out UConn in the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, a game that we should have been playing in. And in the BCS National Bowl, Ohio State beats Oregon 42-35. So just moving on with the season recap, we're just going to look at some stats now. Boykin, not a horrible year through the air. Almost 2,400 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 19 interceptions. Wasn't too disappointed, but near the end of the season, basically what we did in the bowl game, we focused a lot more on the ground game. And I feel like that might be what we're going to do next season, but it also depends on what incoming weapons we have for wide receiver. On the ground, obviously BJ Catalan with over 2,000 yards. What an amazing achievement for him. Boykin with 568, Green with 323. Altogether, we totaled over 3,000 yards on the ground. That is amazing. 30 touchdowns. There's really no flaws here in the running game. The running game is continue to be the core of our offense. There's no reason they shouldn't be. 18 20-plus carries for BJ Catalan. That is his strong point right there. And the fumbles, the reason Boykin has 10 is off those triple option plays. So it's not like he's putting the ball on the ground on every play. Moving on in the stats, we're looking at receiving. Obviously, it's not our strongest point. Leading in receptions is Catalan. Leading in yards is Doxson. And touchdowns is Cam White. So there's really not a dominant receiver. And 2 of those players, Doxson, Cam White, and Brandon Carter will be leaving. So we're going to see a huge change in the wide receiver core. Deontay Gray is going to have to step up big. With only 11 catches, he's projected to be our #1 receiver. We're going to have to see a lot of change in him. 5'10", 177. He's not the biggest guy. Defense, no complaints there. Sam Carter was a tackling machine. 98 total tackles, 93 solos, 5 assists, 16 tackles for loss, and this is where our defense thrives. 7 players with 10-plus tackles for losses. That is what we are known for. Stopping the run, getting sacks. It is amazing seeing some of these names on this list. There's so many tackles for losses. And sacks, that's another strong point on our front 4. Anderson, Fields, Hunter, Pearson, and Lawson. Our top 5 are all defensive linemen. Then it's Carter, Dawson, Anderson, Mallet, and just a few other rotational players. So our front 4, if they can continue to dominate, I don't see any reason why we cannot have another monster year in the sack column. And then moving on, looking into interceptions, not a horrible year. I would like to see more people get interceptions. I was disappointed to not see Colby Griffin get any, but still, Kevin White with 6, Garrett with 5, Carter with 3, Hooker 2, and Hackett with 1 in the bowl game, and Paul Dawson with 1 that he took to the house. So not a horrible year in terms of interceptions. I'd like to see more turnovers from our defense. They have the potential for it. It's just finding that potential and exploiting it. And speaking of turnovers, forced fumbles, not really anything we saw very often. Pearson had 2, Griffin and Fields had 1 apiece. Only 4 forced fumbles. I understand it's a little harder to force fumbles in this game, but I would love to see more of them. And 2 recoveries for Garrett and Zach Jackson, the one he took to the house. So not a horrible year in terms of defense and touchdowns. 3 defensive touchdowns, can't complain, but once again, I'd like to see that number higher. I love defensive touchdowns. They are the best thing ever. I would love to see that. Moving on, I got a contract extension. That is very nice considering, first bowl game in 3 years. We didn't quite get to the win that they wanted, and it is a 6-year extension. This will have me signed through 2020 if I decide to take it. Now, looking at other coaching jobs, there was a job at Penn State and Florida State, so I decided to stay. TCU, I'm staying here. And now just looking at some big coaching changes around the Big 12. Nothing really too big, just some extensions. Oklahoma's defensive coordinator has left for a different job. SMU fires their entire coaching unit, so they will be under some new names. TCU, we extend not only me, but we also extend our defensive coordinator. So not bad. Texas extends their defensive coordinator, and Texas Tech also fires their entire coaching core. So they will be under new leadership. So now we're going to see what we have for players leaving. We want to make sure that nobody is transferring out. We cannot afford to have anyone transfer out. And we do not. Everyone is going. White and Carter are projected for the draft in rounds 3 and 7. We can only wish the best of luck for them. David Porter, another player leaving. He never really got to see much of the field, buried in our wide receiver core. Another player, John Lewis, just way too talented of a defensive tackle. Sam Carter, we already know the story behind him, and Paul Dawson. Jonathan Anderson had a great junior season, but we just didn't really see him much afterwards. David Johnson, he got a few reps in. Stephen Bryant, the tight end turned fullback. And of course, Matt Anderson, the sack master. Jeff Hooker, great rotational player. He did his job well. Chucky Hunter, that's going to be a big blow on our defensive line. Marcus Mallet, for some reason, we just don't see much left outside linebacker play running the 4-2-5. Starting right tackle, Cam White, player who stepped up big later in the season. That's going to be a big blow for us. Our wide receiver core is losing a few players. And the pro draft, Kevin White goes in the 3rd and Brandon Carter goes in the 7th, so it's nice to see some TCU players finding success. And another team just looking around is Oklahoma. They lost a lot of talent. Sophomore quarterback Trevor Knight declared for the draft. That is huge. They lost their top 2 corners in Sanchez and Wilson. I am not at all complaining. Moving on quickly into recruiting. Now I'm just going to show you what we've already got. Corner JB Long, 5'11", 189, my bad. Quick speed, coverage could be better with only 73 and 75 in man and zone, but he's definitely a developmental prospect. That 90 speed is definitely what I like to see. Andrew Ferguson, 6'2", 221, right outside linebacker, preferably. 79 speed, power moves and finesse moves aren't great, but he's got a good raw block shedding, and he's got pretty good tackling. I'd like to see what he can turn into. Well, this guy is going to be our new kicker next year. Not next year, but the year after. 85 kick power, 65 accuracy. He's got the power. If we can get him more accurate, he could be a monster kicker for us in the future. Defensive end, Caleb Jones. 3-star, 6'5", 279 out of Texas. He is a pass rusher for sure. 71 speed, 84 XL, 74 power, 71 finesse, and 66 block shedding could be better. But he has got some raw talent. Wide receiver Jason London, 6'4", 193. He's only 1 star, but I scouted him for his size. He has got 89 speed, 93 carrying, and 56 catching. If we can work on that catching, he could be insane. Never dropping the rock. He's got the potential, but will he be able to even crack our depth chart? Future punter Darren Hughes, 71 kick power, 63 kick accuracy. I'm not really too concerned. He'll be able to develop into a better punter. Corner Dan Bailey. This is someone that could potentially find his way into the lineup early. 86 speed, 78 man coverage, 81 zone coverage. Even if it's just special teams, I feel like he could have an impact early in his freshman year if he doesn't get redshirted. Safeties were in need, and we got a few of them. Joe Lewis, 80 speed, 83 hit power. That's what I like to see out of him. Plus an 83 zone coverage. So not only can he hit, but he can also play coverage. That is an amazing pickup for us. And then almost an identical pickup was Tom King. He's just a little bit, not quite as good as Joe Lewis. When you start to look at his credentials, he's about the same speed, just can't hit quite as hard. But it's the coverage where he lacks. Only a 76 zone coverage. We might see him converted into full safety. We'll have to see. Obviously, right now we have one of the best running back cores in the nation, but it's not going to stay that way forever, so we need some running backs. Adam Charles could be one of those future guys. 84 speed, nothing too special, but a 72 break tackle. The carrying is where it's going to need to go up. A 60 carrying could be a problem, but 84 juke, 77 elusiveness, he's got that potential. Outside linebacker, Rob Lee. He was a +8 overall. I'm not sure why he's not a gem, but 70 speed, 78 hit power, 79 block shedding, and 78 pursuit. He could be a guy that cracks the lineup a few years down the road. Wouldn't mind seeing it either. The only problem is he's a little slow linebacker. It's the one problem I see with him right now. Moving on, obviously, offensive line is always a need, and one that we already have committed is 3-star, 6'7", 279, Phil Harrell. He is a big boy. 76 pass block, 77 run block. Give him a few years to develop, he could turn into something really special for us along the outside. Another safety, Garrett Hawkins, 6'2", 193, 3-star prospect. They're calling him a hard hitter. Let's see what he's got. 84 speed and 84 hit power. God, that is lovely to see. But zone coverage with only a 57, that is his weakness right there. He can hit, he can fly, but will he be able to cover? He's going to have to work on that. Outside linebacker, Scott Brandt, one of my favorite pickups. Obviously, probably my second favorite. 85 speed, 94 excel, 78 tackles, 79 hit power, 84 pursuit. This is what you want to see in a linebacker. This man is a monster. He is going to be stopping the run, making plays in coverage. I cannot wait to see what Scott Brandt can do. My favorite pickup, though, is Marcus Bass. 72 speed, 89 excel, 88 man coverage. This is a true freshman that you will see playing for us. He has got so much potential. 81 play recognition. God, I cannot wait to see Marcus Bass out on the football field. And then finally, Steve Harris. He wasn't anything really special that we were looking for, but he committed to us, and we're going to take him. It's a defensive tackle. If anything, he will be depth if he makes it onto the final roster during the offseason. So that is what we have in terms of already committed, and now we're going to move up and see what we have to look forward to in the future. Clifton Harris right now, our #1 target. We're going to have to beat out two huge teams in Ohio and Oklahoma. But man, does he have the credentials. 80 pass block, 80 run block, and 80 impact block. That is a nice start across the board for a tackle. If we can't get him, we'd like to find ourselves getting Seth Sherman. 80 run block, 60 impact blocking, not as good, but 77 pass block. He could be a really good tackle if we don't get Clifton Harris. Moving on, we have got Josh Davis, 4-star prospect out of Texas. He's a corner, 6'1", 177, decent size, 90 speed, 75 man, 81 zone. Could work a little bit on the coverage, but he's got a dominating size for a corner that could easily turn himself into a shutdown corner. Now, one of the few athletes, we're not really looking at too many of them. Eric McNeil is one of them that we are looking at. And I was kind of looking for him to become a linebacker. 83 speed, 72 tackle, 84 hit power, and 88 pursuit. I would like to see him as an outside linebacker. He's got the potential, otherwise I just don't really see what else he could be doing. The carrying is okay, but with 83 speed, I don't want a running back there. Maybe fullback. Moving on, a running back is Brandon Jackson. He's not a big guy, but he's got the power. 88 speed, trucking at a 72 already, 77 elusiveness. He's not bad, sort of just a project backer. I just really want to start filling our backfield with the future and what our running backs could potentially be. Another athlete that we're looking at, another one that will probably be playing on defense. I'm not really sure where I would like to put him. I'm seeing him again, I think, as a linebacker with 70 tackle, 81 hit power, and 82 pursuit. But at the same time, if he wants to be a linebacker, he's got to get that tackle up. I can't have a 70 tackling linebacker. Moving on, defensive end Adrian Campbell. Just sort of, at this point, these next few players are just starting to fill the prospect board. They're not really anyone that I'm really fighting for, but if I can get them, I won't complain. Moving down, this is a player that I really want to see. Jerry Drew, 6'2", 183, 96 speed as a wide receiver. He can fly. 62 catching though would be his downfall, but man, I would love to see a player like that on our wide receiver core playing in the slot. And finally, athlete Derek Griffin. Not sure what I want to do with him, but once again, a very fast player, 93 speed. I'm not sure, he doesn't really have the credentials to be a catcher or a carrier, so I'm thinking coverage. 78 man coverage, 79 zone, so he could either be a nice man cover corner or just a really fast safety. I'm not sure what we'd want to do with him, but he would be a very nice developmental prospect. So now that we've done this, it is time to move on and see what's going on. I'm going to add in all the points and I will be right back with you. Alright, I've assigned all of the points. Clifton Harris and Seth Sherman obviously are getting the most. Josh Davis and Eric McNeil will be the follow. And then I just sort of spread out the remaining points elsewhere just to be sure that I could really, you know, get the players that were needed with the leads that I have. Josh Davis, not a huge deficit. Eric McNeil, 500 under, but I'm not really too disappointed if I don't end up getting him. Brandon Jackson, we've got the lead on him, so I don't feel like I'm going to have to put too much effort into getting him. I don't know if any teams are going to be looking at him huge. Bryce McLaughlin, moving on to him. Eventually. There we go. We got a huge lead on him, so I didn't really feel like too many points were necessary, but I wanted to at least put it 250 on him just to be sure that it would solidify our lead on him. And that is honestly about it. Moving down, we're going to see Clint Cooper, already down by 530. I don't really intend to fight for him, so I'm going to end up taking a few more points away from him because I really want to see Jerry Drew. Jerry Drew can be huge for us, but in order to do that, I'm actually going to take points away from Darrell Robinson, just a very low tackle. Jerry Drew can be a huge player on our offense. We're all about our speed. So here it is. This is the final points. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh. Jerry Drew doesn't commit to anyone. Clifton Harris goes to Oklahoma of all teams. Seth Sherman goes to Texas Tech. Oh man. This does not look good at all. Clifton Harris will be playing for our largest rival in this series. Seth Sherman, not a huge rival, but we know that Texas Tech is still considered a rival team. We're going to have to deal with him on the offensive line. Thankfully, they're not a huge impact player, but these could be turning into shutdown tackles. Josh Davis commits to... I cannot think of the college for there. Regardless, he decides to not go to us, so another player lost. I just don't know what happened. Brandon Jackson. Minnesota jumped up huge to be sure that they could get Brandon Jackson. So there's another player lost. Finally, we reach our first commit. And it's not really even a player that I was too concerned about getting, and that is Ricky West, 6'3", 188, out of Florida. At least it's someone. Darrell Robinson, tackle. Doesn't go there. Derek Griffin. Both of the athletes, well, two of our athletes that we were looking at, chose to go elsewhere. We lost Derek Griffin and Eric McNeil. This was a very, very rough recruiting class. We did not have these kind of issues last year. But if we're going to look at some bright sides, we at least did get a few. Bryce McLaughlin decided to come to TCU. Adrian Campbell decided to come to TCU. And last but not least, Adrian Minor. So barely any of the final players that we were looking at decided to commit. Thankfully, we had a large committing class already. Not exactly the recruiting class that we wanted to see, but it is what it is. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe and be ready for the next part of the offseason coming up soon. Leave a like for the next part. See ya.